I'm Cullen Weezy, and this is my informative speech on rice farming.
Here's my audience.
So, growing up in a rural town, I've been exposed to agriculture my entire life. My family's pretty rooted in it, actually. We've been farming rice for generations now. Um, I've grown up, learning the practices and techniques of what rice farming is and the proper way, to achieve the product of a good rice harvest. Um, I just want to explain the different practices and the history that is involved in the cultivation of rice. Um, excuse me. Rice originated somewhere in East Asia about 10,000 years ago, and it's actually a domestication of a wild grass. Now, this grass isn't your typical Bermuda grass, but more of a grass with a seed head on the top of it. Um, um, and that was about 10,000 years ago, I say, in East Asia. And after the cultivation was successful there, um, it moved westward into Sri Lanka and parts of India, to the eastern coast of Africa, and onward to the western coast of Africa, where there it met a border, which being the Atlantic coast, the Atlantic Ocean. And it stayed there, and the Western Africans really, in the Senegambia region, mastered the cultivation of rice farmers. And it wasn't until the Europeans came and brought slaves over, which in turn they brought their practices and their mindsets of rice cultivation. And it actually took off. The first rice farms in the United States were in South Carolina. Now there's two current practices, and now there's many sub varieties of rice, but there's two practices of farming rice, and that's your conventional harvesting and your organic farming. Conventional deals with pesticides and fertilizers. It's a lot more not environmental friendly, excuse me. Like I said, it just involves a lot of spraying with airplanes and pesticides in the waters and stuff. And you do get higher yields and quicker growth and less damage to the crops. But organic farming offers similar benefits in a contrasting manner. Organic farming, there's no use, no pesticides are allowed. The only fertilizers you can use are natural ones such as cow manure or chicken manure. You do have a decrease in yields and there's more bugs in the crop, but it's healthier and there's a higher price for it. So now to the farming process itself. Um, so ground prep is where you begin. You really want to work the ground, get all of the grass and the weeds out of it. You typically do that with a disc. The disc is just an implement jug behind a tractor with blades. After you disc, you would like to cultivate, break down the large clods just to get a nice seed bed for the actual planting of the rice. So once you have a perfect seed bed, then you're going to get your drill. And when you're farming with conventional rice, you have fertilizer covered seed, which allows it to sprout better and grow better. It gives it the nutrients to really take off. In organic, you don't. It's just natural seed rice. So that's another big difference in the yield gains of conventional and organic rice. Once the seed is planted, then we implement a levee system throughout the fields that are used based off of the contour of the land. Now, this is to keep a adequate control of the water in different areas of the field because it does have differing levels of elevation. Now, once the field is watered up, it's just periodically checked throughout the spring, and then around late summer is when it's ready to harvest. Now, when it comes to harvest, combines and other heavy machinery are used. Now, combines are the actual harvesting machine. So they go through the field and strip the grain off of the plant and leave the residue behind. Now, use tractors and grain buggies to collect the rice out of the combines and in turn take them to the 18-wheeler. Now, actually taking the rice out of the field is a process of transferring it to the 18-wheeler, which then takes it to a facility called a rice dryer. What happens after the rice dryer is rice is stored in large grain silos where warm air is blown through, which dries the moisture out of the rice husks, the shells, which makes it easier for the shells to come off, where you get your rice, what it looks like in a bag on the store counter. And now once that's all done, the rice sits in the storage silos until you feel confident that you can sell your rice at a price that you're comfortable with and you can make your profit margin. Now, the longer you wait, it's a larger bet because prices may fall and never come back. Um, but rice farming is a very intensive practice, and it can yield large benefits, but it can also yield large losses. Excuse me. Um, as I stated today, rice farming it's come a long way from East Asia all the way to West Africa, across the Atlantic Ocean to the United States and the Americas. Um, it has a future, and it will continue to modernize and hopefully have better, safer practices. Thank you very much.